I'd been gone for 8 weeks, driving my old RV across the country to visit my daughter and her kids in Oregon. It was a long haul, but every mile was worth it to see those little faces light up. By the time I turned onto the gravel road leading to my lakefront home in Cedar Lake, Michigan, it was 5:47 a.m. on a crisp October morning in 2024. The sun was just peeking over the horizon, painting the water gold. I was ready to sink into my own bed, to hear the familiar crunch of gravel under my tires, to feel the peace of the home I'd built with my own hands 20 years ago. But as I rounded the last curve of pines, a sharp, bitter smell hit my dust and diesel, the kind that clings to disaster. I knew that smell from my 30 years as a fire chief. It never meant anything good. My foot eased off the gas as my eyes locked on a scene that didn't compute. A massive yellow excavator sat where my front yard should have been, its claw buried in a pile of splintered wood and shattered glass. Men in hard hats swarmed my property like ants. My heart slammed against my ribs, a cold dread pooling in my gut. I threw the RV into park, engine still rumbling, and stumbled out. My boots hit the ground hard. My house-me sanctuary was gone. One wall of the den stood like a broken tooth, framing a view of the lake through what used to be my kitchen. The cast-iron sink I'd installed was twisted into scrap. And then I saw it, half buried under drywall and shingles. My late wife Sarah's piano, its cherrywood frame smashed, keys scattered like bone fragments. That piano was her heart, played every dusk, its notes floating over the water. Now it was rubble. A man in a clean hard hat and an orange vest approached, clipboard in hand, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Sir, you can't be here. This is a demolition site," he said, voice flat. I stared at him, then at the wreckage. "This is my home," I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to someone else. "What the hell is going on?" He sighed, flipping a page on his clipboard. "We posted notices 3 times, pal. First one went up 6 months ago. You didn't pay your HOA dues." The words hit like a sucker punch. HOA dues? I wasn't in any HOA. My 15 acres were separate, carved out when a developer tried to buy me out years ago. I'd made sure of its surveyors, iron stakes, county-filed deeds. My land ended a quarter-mile from the new subdivision, Willow Bend Estates. I locked eyes with him, my voice low and steady. "I'm not in your HOA. I own this land outright." He smirked, tapping his pen. "You are now." Those words hung like smoke. My mind raced, searching for the lie, the fault line in his story. 12 years back, a developer had offered me a fortune for my lakefront plot to expand his fancy subdivision. I said no, Sarah, and I had built our life here. We drew up airtight paperwork, separating my land from their tract. I'd watched Willow Bend grow, house by house, with their rules about fence heights and approved paint colors. It had nothing to do with me. But that smirk told me this foreman didn't care about deeds. He cared about his clipboard. He sent his crew home for the day, probably tired of my questions. Alone in the silence, I checked my mailbox. It was stuffed bills, junk, and 2 envelopes from Willow Bend Estates HOA. One was a certified letter, unclaimed since I'd been gone. It demanded $4,200 in unpaid dues and late fees, citing community compliance. The other was a photocopied HOA meeting minute, a paragraph circled in red. For months ago, they'd voted to annex my land, claiming it was for lakefront aesthetic harmony. They'd done it while I was 2,000 miles away, without a word to me. My hands shook, not from fear but from a rage so sharp it felt like a blade. I called the county records office. A clerk named Emily confirmed my property was separate, with no condemnation order. My taxes were paid, my home certified. But she found a demolition permit, filed by the HOA, with my signature on it. I hadn't signed anything. When I pushed, she emailed me the PDF. The signature was too perfect, too clean, lifted from a 2016 permit I'd signed for a roof repair after a storm. They'd copied it, pasted it, and torn my life apart. This wasn't a mistake. This was fraud. My RV became my war room. I sat at the dinette, laptop open, the wreckage of my home visible through the window. Shock had burned away, leaving cold resolve. I'd spent decades investigating fires, finding the spark, tracing the damage. This was no different. I checked my email, spam, trash, nothing from the HOA. Their posted notices were a lie. My security cameras, installed after kids trespassed on my dock, showed no one posting anything. Just deer, raccoons, and the mailman. Lie number 1. Next, I dug into Willow Bend's website. Buried in a neglected forum was a thread started by their president, Karen Mitchell. She called my home an eyesore, griping about my refusal to sell. One post stood out. If he won't comply, we'll lean him out. We'll make it work. It was a blueprint for theft. I checked the demolition permits metadata. Edited at 3:14 a.m. on a Wednesday. On a computer registered to Karen M. Premeditated, deliberate, felonious. I drove to the sheriff's office and laid it all out for Sheriff Daniels, a friend from my fire chief days. I showed him the forged permit, the fake inspection report with a misspelled inspector's name, the forum posts. He leaned back, grim. File a complaint, Tom. We'll investigate. But off the record, Karen's pulled this before bogus fines, land grabs. People settle to avoid the hassle. He slid me a list of names, folks who'd complained but backed down. I wasn't them. I needed hard proof my house was sound. I called Mike Patch Larson, a retired structural engineer who could spot a flaw in a bridge from a mile away. He showed up in his beat-up Chevy, cane in one hand, coffee in the other. He surveyed the rubble, jaw tight. This wasn't a collapse, Tom. This was murder. He flew a drone over the site, capturing images of my foundation solid, no cracks, no settling. My blueprints showed a fortress, rebar, hurricane ties, double joists. Patch's report was damning me home exceeded every code. The HOA's emergency inspection was another forgery, signed by an inspector whose name they couldn't even spell right. Walking the debris, I found the cracked lid of Sarah's piano. Inside its sheet music compartment was a thumb drive labeled for the grandkids. Videos of Sarah, recorded before she passed, played on my laptop. She smiled, telling stories, then looked right at me. Things break, Tom, but they can't take what's real. What we built together, that's forever. I shut the laptop, her words stealing me. This wasn't just about my house. It was for her. For 3 days, I prepared. I called the names on Daniel's list. One man paid $3,000 for a misplaced fence. A woman faced a lien over unapproved window shutters. They were scared, but I had proof. Patch's report, drone photos, forged documents, metadata. I printed 20 packets, each a dagger of truth. I tucked a tiny audio recorder in my pocket and headed to the Willow Bend HOA meeting. The clubhouse was sterile, reeking of coffee and bleach. Karen Mitchell sat at the front, navy suit crisp, wielding her gavel like a scepter. She shot down a resident's plea for new playground equipment with a patronizing smile. We stick to the approved list, Greg. I sat in the back, unnoticed until the new business agenda item. I stood, and the room went quiet. Karen's smile tightened. Mr. Harper, this is for members only. Your status is settled. I walked to her table, dropped my packets, and handed them out to residents. I'm here as the owner of the property you illegally destroyed. I laid it out. County maps proving my land was separate, the forged permit next to my real signature, the fake inspection with its misspelled name. Then I played the recorder Karen's voice boasting about rewriting boundaries. Gasps filled the room. Karen's face flushed crimson, her control slipping. The HOA's lawyer blustered about inadmissible evidence, but I cut him off. I'm not going to court. I'm going to title. Confusion rippled through the crowd. I explained, 20 years ago, when Willow Bend's developer went bankrupt, I bought the roads, mineral rights, and utility easements. The HOA only had permission to use my land. By demolishing my home, they'd violated that agreement. As of 7 a.m. today, I said, I terminated your easements. Willow Bend Lane is my private road. Access ends in 48 hours. Panic erupted. How will we get to our homes? One woman cried. I held up cease and desist letters to their contractors, security, and the demolition crew. The room turned on Karen, residents shouting about property values and isolation. 2 days later, as my gate posts went up, Karen arrived with deputies, accusing me of harassment. I showed them my title, the plat map, my evidence. The senior deputy's face darkened. Wire fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy. He radioed for federal backup. The FBI took over, uncovering Karen's slush fund and server records tying her to the forgeries. Her secretary, Lisa Grant, confessed to falsifying documents for a board seat and a cut of my land sale. Karen was arrested mid-HOA meeting, handcuffed in front of the neighbors she'd bullied. The HOA's insurance settled $4 127 300 full replacement value plus damages. I rebuilt my home, stronger, with a storm shelter and a ramp for accessibility. The residents, freed from Karen's grip, formed a voluntary group to maintain the road. I helped a man named Carl build a wheelchair ramp for his mother-in-law, denied by Karen over unapproved materials. We did it in a day, just us and a pile of lumber. They thought their rules gave them power. They were wrong. Power is the truth you stand on, the fight you're willing to wage. I rebuilt my home, but more importantly, I tore down their lies. So what would you do if someone tried to steal your life's work? Would you fight like I did, or let it go to avoid the hassle? And what's the line between justice and revenge? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story fired you up, and subscribe for more battles worth fighting.